On November 29, 2024, Juice WRLD's estate would finally drop his long-anticipated album, The Party Never Ends. Now, if you've been a long-time fan of the channel, you already know how much of a mess the rollout for this album has been. But I think the aftermath of everything is what truly solidifies this as one of the worst album rollouts of all time. Now, unfortunately, Juice WRLD is no longer with us, so a lot of these critiques land upon the label's handling of the album, starting with the album itself. A lot of people in the Juice community were very upset with the tracklist of the album. And if there's one thing that Grade A always seems to fuck up with, it's releasing the right songs.
What do you mean by right song?
Well, it's no secret that Juice WRLD has had thousands of leaks surface on the internet for the last few years. So when fans are presented with the opportunity to hear their favorite leak in an official release, they're gonna support it as much as they can. One of the earliest examples of this was around 2021 when Juice WRLD's documentary Into the Abyss was released and a song would be previewed on it called Off the Rails. And as we'd get into 2022, Lil Bibby would tease this song finally finding an official release, and the fans were very excited. I mean, even in the initial clip, Juice would even state how much he wanted this song on the album.
Hey, this is going on my next album, bro. This shit hard.
So surely the label would follow through on that, right? Well, days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months. No song. But unfortunately, this is the same song and dance we've seen with Grade A for years now. It's a cycle of lying about releasing a new song and then keeping the fans in suspension by dangling a carrot over their heads like we're fucking pigs.
Hey pig, I wanna eat lava?
No! No! But the one thing about Juice WRLD fans is that they ain't gonna let that slide. Whenever the label pump fakes like this, disgruntled Juice WRLD fans usually take it upon themselves to actually leak the song. But unfortunately, that's a double-edged sword, because then that becomes the label's excuse for not following through on the promise, and then they blame the fans for not being patient. The same mess that happened with Off the Rip happened with other fan favorite leaks, like Biscotti in the Air, Way Too Many, and most recently, Rental, as a lot of people were upset about the fact that the song wasn't on the album.
No Rental felt like an arrow to the heart, though. Be thankful for what we got, man. That's what I'm saying, dog. I'm grateful for what we got.
Right, that like, nigga, The Party Never Ends is in my library.
Matter of fact, a lot of people were upset with the entire track list in general. Remember how I mentioned that people hate Grade A's song selection? Well, that's a little bit of an exaggeration, because there's actually one man behind that whole process, and his name is Benny Blanco. But he wasn't originally behind all of it, alright? It actually first started with Lil Bibby. Then it was given to the producer Max Lord, and then swapped to Benny in the later half of 2023. This producer change would spark rumors that Grade A actually swapped Max's version with Benny's just a few days before the album's release. And comparing Max's version to Benny's version, it's practically night and day. See, I actually loved the final product that we ended up getting. I'm very grateful for the songs that we got, but fans could swiftly tell that Max's track list catered more to the day one fan than Benny's did. Some fans would even point out the fact that Max Lord was way more suited for this job than Benny, as he's helped make Juice's most critically acclaimed albums, such as Death Race for Love and Legends Never Die. And ironically, Bibby and Benny, some of the community's most hated figureheads, have made some of his most shitty albums, that being Fighting Demons and now The Party Never Ends. And a majority of Max's track list featured some of the fandom's most anticipated snippets. And knowing that this is what we could have gotten kinda does sting, just a little bit, especially considering with how the label has decided to quell the fire. You hear that? Yeah, niggas was mad about this album. People complained about the release. People complained about the track list. People complained about the mixing. People pointed out how some of the songs were just straight YouTube rips. We're taking a page out of Vultures too with that one. Not even the Juice WRLD Fortnite event could save this album, bro. Twitter was in flames.
Pete, this isn't what the fans wanted. The track list is nothing close to what Juice wanted. As a label, you guys aren't able to deliver a good album for the fans after years of waiting and being blueballed. The community is more reliant on leakers than the label. We're going to be leaking much more music for the community, just like how ROR was. I don't know what ROR is. Hang on, I have to ask him. He had no idea what it was. Just stay tuned for what we have on the line.
But remember how I mentioned earlier about the label trying to quell the fires? Well, Pete, Juice's manager, would do his best to calm everyone down. First, there were claims that Rental would be released eventually and was only kept off the track list due to sample clearances. Then he would go on to explain why one of the community's most anticipated leaks, Good Times, was left off the album, and it was apparently due to Kid Cudi not properly clearing it. This one did not go over well though, because I mean, Cudi himself literally mentioned how he wanted the song out. He even claimed that Juice's team never responded back to him about clearing the song earlier this year.
What makes this even funnier is that Pete actually did respond to this tweet and just straight up lied.
And then, the ultimate form of damage control came within a fan vote. Pete would go on to claim that fans would be able to pick 10 songs to be on the deluxe version of The Party Never Ends. All fine and dandy, right? I mean, it seemed like it. Rental was beating a lot of the songs, but I also found it to be pretty funny that a lot of the leaks that fans claim to want so much, like Biscotti, Cake, Off the Rip, were getting absolutely no fucking votes. Oh, once you look at that, turns out the voting was actually botted. This is a fucking mess. I'm actually getting a headache trying to write write this script. Like, what the fuck do you mean that Pete wants to send a whole Juice WRLD album on a SpaceX mission with Elon Musk? What timeline are we living in? On all fronts, this rollout has been a dumpster fire.
Y'all fucking with the album? This is definitely something. Y'all got no energy.
On one side, we have the fans complaining about the album and leaking a bunch of shit. On the other side, we have the label blue-balling the fans and then having some of the worst decision-making I have ever seen. But what about the album itself? As much as I hate everything else surrounding this album, I thought it was pretty good. The production was great, I was happy with the features we got, and I'm just very happy to finally get KTM Drip, Barbarian, and Party By Myself on streaming services. Again, for those who watch my 2 other Juice WRLD videos, you'd know that these were some of my grails. And the songs sound pretty fire. Overall, I still enjoyed the album. I really don't think it's as bad as people have been saying it is. I just think a lot of Juice WRLD fans are upset that they didn't get to hear their favorite songs released, which is complicated because it's easy to hate the fans for their constant bickering, but the label's decision making is what created this environment in the first place. Their constant broken promises led to the fans retaliating by leaking songs, and the fans who've been sat waiting patiently for new albums may check out a leak or two and end up getting overly attached to some of these songs. So once you fall down that hole of hearing how good this nigga's unreleased catalog really was, you can't really help but be upset at the wasted potential that this album had. At the same time though, that's why I'm not a big fan of communities centered around leaks. You'll see the same bullshit with Cardi and Uzi fans. They get so overly attached to songs that they were never supposed to hear, and they get mad whenever the artist doesn't want to release their favorite snippets. I can definitely acknowledge that as a massive Juice WRLD fan, that Max Lord's Tracklist was definitely better, but that doesn't take the value away from what we ended up getting. That's how you end up ungrateful. Benny may have not been the man for the job, but at the end of the day, these are still Juice WRLD songs. Juice is a great artist, so of course I'm gonna end up liking these songs regardless of how messy this rollout's been. But overall, as the title probably insinuates, I still believe this album has left a terrible stain on Juice WRLD's legacy. And it's less about how it sounds sonically and more about the label's mishandlings. The YouTuber Blackie Speaks touched on this topic a little bit in his video that I'm gonna echo in mine, but at the end of the day, this really is just the label's fault. As much as I like keeping it lighthearted in these videos, this problem is overall bigger than music. This is a constant pattern that we've seen with posthumous releases. I mean, just a few years ago, we were talking about X's final album, and here we are with Juice's. Labels are constantly taking advantage of young artists like Juice. Juice, being a young kid, is most likely not going to be thinking about his future, and the label understands that. So they dangle life-changing money in front of an 18, 19-year-old kid in exchange for a long-term investment. And as we've covered in previous videos, masters are the ownership of your music. Labels aren't concerned when an artist passes away, especially under deals like these, because at the end of the day, they own you. The harsh truth is that these labels like you dead more than they like you alive. These contracts are specifically set up to be profitable in the long run. And with the 1,300 unreleased Juice WRLD songs in the vault, do you genuinely believe that they're just gonna release this album and stop giving a fuck? Final album, my fucking ass. Of course they're gonna keep releasing Juice's music, whether it's 5 or 10 years down the line. Gotta cash in that nostalgia, man. They're playing the long game. And it's even more upsetting once you realize that there was almost no way to prevent this. With Juice constantly being under the influence and having some of the most fucked up people surrounding him, I don't even believe that he was capable of understanding the position that he was in. He was self-aware enough to touch the hearts of millions of kids, me included, through his heartfelt music, but the deeper you look into the lyrics, the more you realize how real his pain was, which makes this story even more upsetting, especially as a secondhand witness. From watching Juice blow up in 2018 with All Girls Are the Same to where we are today, the constant heartbreaks this man went through, to his untimely death, to his poor excuse of a label, to his girlfriend selling a posthumous sex tape, to one of the worst album rollouts of all time. Like, everything that's happened after this man's passing has been a fucking disgrace, and that only scratches the surface of how tragic this whole thing really is. But at the end of the day, as I said before, I believe that Juice WRLD's final album has officially ruined his legacy. With twists and turns at every curve, this story is most likely not finished. With Grade A apparently being sued, to the underperformance of the album, it's like a never-ending cycle of bullshit, and it makes me never want to cover anything this label does past this point ever again. Now apparently there's a deluxe dropping. Okay. Like I said, man, fucking headache inducing, bro. But throughout all of this chaos, I tend to ask myself this question frequently. Is there even a solution to this all? The unfortunate answer is very grim. I'm sure in a couple of years, we'll be talking about another situation similar to what X and Juice have gone through. But I feel like our best bet to prevent these situations from happening is for those with a platform to continue to educate their audience of upcoming artists of what to anticipate when they're in that room signing their lives away. Read your contracts. No amount of money is worth signing your hard work away. Pay attention to how so many artists have complained about signing their lives away young and how that's prevented them from profiting later in their career. Even the biggest artists in the world have had these issues. Kanye, Drake, and even Michael Jackson at one point. These contracts are made to set you up. Don't be the next victim of it all. And before this video ends, I'd like to give a shout out to some of our recent channel members. Risklow, Jolyn, Intelligent, Icy Loser, Cosme Universe, Big Man Riv, Nick Fox, Cy Jacko, Stinky Bean, Tina, RC Likes to Exist, Birds, Jesus Cool Kids XDYT, LaFlame, Username Unknown, Shorty, Mr. Resident Fox, Kaz, and Baywee876. Your support means everything. And if any of you are interested in supporting the channel further, you can click the join button next to my name and become a member today. I am hoping with enough noise in the future, we may see some of these contracts change, ladies and gentlemen. But until then, I've been InvaderWist. I'm signing out.
Don't hold back from me. Do not hold back from me. Don't hold back from me. Do not hold back from me.